Welcome back to the Bookcast. My name is D.L. White. I am an Atlanta-based author of romantic fiction featuring Black men and women. I have been, for the past few weeks, reading my holiday shorts, practicing for a way to bring my stories to a new audience in a new way because I've got time. This pandemic is never ending. So I figure why not have fun with it? I read Unexpected, which was my first holiday short, and last weekend I finished up Second Time Around, which is a holiday novella set in Potter Lake. The first book in that series is Leslie's Curl and Dye. You should get it, you should read it, you should enjoy it, and then you should listen to Second Time Around, and then you should buy that and read it, and then you should read The Guy Next Door, which just came out in audio. It's just super cute and lots of fun, really super low angst. And that's the end of my sales pitch. My third holiday short came out in December of 2019. It's called the Kwanzaa Brunch. And let me tell you about this story because my friends are evil people. They know if they mention something that sometimes it will just stick and then I can't get rid of it until I write it. And so somebody mentioned that I should write a holiday story that wasn't a Christmas story, wasn't a New Year story. I think I said I wanted to write a holiday story that wasn't Christmas or New Year's, and they said, yeah, you should write a Kwanzaa story. Because that's the easiest thing to write. Like, Kwanzaa has a lot of meaning, and man, I don't want to mess that up. And so somebody put that in my head, and it started writing itself. Then in one of my chats, one of my friends, Tarita, reminded me of Sandra Lee's really terrible Kwanzaa cake. And if you've never seen this thing, go to YouTube, type in Food Network, Sandra Lee, Kwanzaa cake, and bask in the ugliness of this thing, and you will know what I'm talking about in this story. It's pretty funny to me. I tried to make it real light and hilarious. I hope that you agree. Let's stop rambling and just get on with the story because Sienna and Booker are super cute. This is the Kwanzaa Brunch by D.L. White. The introduction is as follows. A faded brunch and an unlikely Cupid. Sienna Charles is tired of the same old, same old. Same old job, same old city, same old friends, same old men. Just when she's relegated herself to living Groundhog's Day Romance Edition, Booker Lasalle swaggers into her life, courtesy in an open position at Precision Software. He's new to the company, to the city, and most importantly, to her. Booker Lasalle is making a new life for himself. He relocated to an Atlanta suburb, leaving a stressful job and an ex-wife behind for a great job with growth potential. He's turning over a new leaf, no more falling for the first pretty woman that crosses his path, like the witty, gorgeous, and obviously interested analyst at Precision. Everything about her tempts Booker to throw that new leaf plan right out the window. Chapter 1. Sienna. Bee boop. Bee boop. Bee boop. Bee boop. Aggressive lyrics and hard driving beats from Complex Magazine's year-end hip-hop roundup blasted through my headphones while I glared at the blinking, warbling object perched on the corner of my desk. My office line had been ringing nonstop for the past half hour. I rarely picked up the phone, a well-known fact at Precision Software. Sales analysts were support staff, not customer-facing, and the staff I supported would rather send an email or leave a voicemail if they wanted to chat, which was rare, and that was fine. They knew how to find my office. Anthony Thomas, lead sales consultant with the biggest customers and the most complicated account profile, got great joy out of doing the opposite. He'd rather call than email and would keep calling until I picked up. I only put up with him because his wife was one of my best friends, and because she was a chef. Not a person that likes to cook or that messes around in the kitchen. Faith was Le Cordon Bleu Paris trained, and I was a big fan of a well-cooked meal. I could count the curves Faith had personally put on my hips since our college days. Beep boop. The phone lit up again like Christmas. I seethed, punching the button to open up the line. No, I barked, yanking off my headphones and slipping the telephone headset over my ear. I maneuvered the microphone so it was in front of my mouth, the better to snap at him about blowing up my phone. Anthony wasn't discouraged in the least, as this was the standard Sienna Charles greeting. You don't even know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Did you forget what my office is? Or what that inter-office chat bubble means on your desktop? Or how email works? I'm busy. Anthony laughed, his cackles climbing to that pitch only dogs could hear. You're so funny when you try to be hard, Sienna. For real? Are you coming down to definitely no? Make that hell no. Come on. You know she does it to be nice. Do I look like a person that cares about that woman being nice? I fell for the bullshit last year, and frankly, you're still on punishment because you didn't warn me about her. Her was Zariah Mason, the new CEO of Precision Software. She took over the company a year ago after her father, Ezra, stepped down due to health problems. She brought her shiny new MBA and modern business strategies to Precision and implemented a host of changes, one of which was a diversity and inclusion committee. While I applauded the observance of cultural and religious holidays represented by the staff, our new chief executive was overly eager to be one of the gang. She wanted everyone, from the vice president to the janitor, to call her Zariah or Zoe. She'd had her title removed from the website, her nameplate, and her business cards. Zariah loved employee gatherings and insisted on bringing a dish to contribute to the table. But wherever her black girl magic shone, it wasn't at the stove. Or the oven, not even the refrigerator. The woman could not cook. But she really wanted to and always made an effort. Trying not to hurt her feelings about it stressed me out. Zoe has every department breathing down my neck right now. Her roasted goose frappe or whatever the hell she brought in for this fake woke Kwanzaa brunch, ain't it, Chief? Anthony laughed again. Hey, don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel, Sienna. You ain't got to eat. Just come down. You know she'll be looking for you. And watching to see if I eat any of what she brought. Like her food would pass these lips. I don't even know why you're fighting this. Zoe will come find you, and I'm not lying for you again like I did at the bashover. I moaned aloud, recalling Zariah's attempt at a light-hearted Passover gathering, featuring her inedible matzo ball soup. It was a river of dough. Anthony had been grilled about where his friend was and asked to encourage, more like bully, me to come down and support our Jewish employees. Fine. I'm not eating anything. I might have some punch if it's store-bought. I'm not drinking anything served out of a bowl with orange slices in it. There's no telling what animal did the backstroke in that thing when no one was looking. Then I'm sneaking out and you will not give me shit about it. I pouted, gliding my fingers along the thin, sleek keyboard to lock my computer. And Faith owes me pecan sweet rolls for this. I'll alert her to your demand. Meet you down there, he said, then hung up, cutting off any further argument. Rolling my desk chair back, I stood, surveying the small but tidy office that I called home for 50 hours a week. The desk and single guest chair took up most of the closet-sized room. 2 monitors flanked the laptop, locked into the dock at the center of the desk. An external keyboard, wireless mouse, and desk phone took up nearly every inch of space left, so I used a side table to hold files, notepads, and a collection of pens. The walls were nearly covered with posters, black art, and popular, snappy sayings. The room was a study in my personality, techie with a sharp tongue and take-no-shit attitude. I tapped the silver-plated lamp that I preferred over the fluorescent bulbs, then grabbed the hoodie that I kept folded over the back of my chair and pulled it on before stepping into the hallway. I grumbled quite a bit, like the overworked corporate drone that I was, but the past 10 years at Precision hadn't been bad. Competitive salary, good people, chummy CEO who tries too hard notwithstanding, great benefits and amenities, all housed in an updated, state-of-the-art building. Like a lot of software companies that popped up in the dot-com era, employees spent a great deal of time at work, and the higher-ups believed in making that time as painless as possible. I'd worked my daily routine down to rote, scheduled tasks, and now the process was a lot of the same thing every day in and day out. It was comforting. Yeah, not really. I loved my job, but I was bored, and not just at the office. I'd had the same friends since undergrad at Albany State, lived in the same condo, shopped at the same neighborhood grocery store, and ate at the same restaurants. I dated the same man 10 times over, if not the same man, the same type of man. The definition of insanity was doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. I was tired of the insanity. I passed the break room, which housed a fully stocked vending machine and always smelled like burnt coffee, then waved at a few of my associates in the bullpen, an open office environment with low cubicle walls and bright overhead lights. It would not be unusual to see a beach ball bouncing from desk to desk, or a meeting being held around the billiards table while a game was in process. Rounding the corner, I entered the elevator lobby and punched the button to call it. When the door slid open, I stepped inside. Then I turned and assumed the position, arms folded across the chest, feet planted apart, stoic, game face on. Zoraya was not going to guilt me into eating her horrible ass food today. Bring it, Black Barbie. Chapter 2. Booker. So the company does this kind of thing often. I lumbered down the hall next to Anthony, my trainer at my new gig. Anthony was short and had that happily married, my wife cooks every night belly paunch, so he was moving slowly, more wandering the hallway than walking. He didn't seem to be in a hurry to get down to the main floor for this brunch everyone had been talking about. This kind of thing like the Kwanzaa Brunch? He shrugged, stuffing his hands into the pockets of his jeans. We didn't used to, but the new CEO is still trying to win us over. I guess the folks like it. We get paid to eat, especially since she has us in here the day after Christmas. He paused to throw a glare in my direction. I'm normally on vacation, but she's changing some things up, and we need to catch up. You need to be out in your territory in January. First quarter is when business spends the most money. Yeah, I remember you saying that a few times. I rubbed dry palms together, eager to finish my training and conquer this new position. Precision was a powerful player in business management applications, and I was chomping at the bit, not only to blow this new job out of the water, but to make my mark in a different city. Double X Systems, Terra Lasalle, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana were in my rearview mirror. It was full speed ahead, a whole new Booker Lasalle from here on out. I had lived in Atlanta long enough to sign the lease on my apartment, stock the cabinets with a few groceries, and report to work. Training had been a long haul of endless days and paperwork, so a break for lunch and some social activity was most welcome. Not that Anthony wasn't personable, but I wanted to look at someone else's face for a change. We rounded a corner to the elevator lobby, and Anthony punched the down button. After a few moments, the door slid open. A sour-faced woman stood in the middle of the cube, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Hey, fam, Anthony yelled. Of course he knew her. Anthony knew everybody. He stepped into the elevator and held out a fist for her to bump it. Make room, damn. She stepped aside with a grumble of whatever and uncrossed her arms, giving his fist a bump to complete the gesture. Her hoodie had large white block lettering that read, "Fuck it, we'll do it live," which made me laugh while increasing my appreciation of the atmosphere at Precision. They clearly didn't stifle an employee's personal sense of style. I stepped in and shuffled to the other side of the elevator, putting her in the middle. You mad? Anthony asked her, grinning. Nope, she answered, too quickly and sharply to not actually be upset. I just hate office politics and schmoozing when I have shit to do. I'm backed up on accounts I need to update before we switch over to your new profile. I'm in the middle of month end, and Zoe has the finance manager on my ass about quarter close and year-end reports. She wants them before the first of the year. We never have to provide reports before the year is out. You'll be fine, Anthony soothed. It's not like you've never written a report before. It's an hour off. Bets on what Zoe brought? Only if we're betting food, she replied. A dulce de leche cake from your wife says whatever she brought is disgusting. I have already won. You know, I don't think Faith wants to be involved in our bets anymore. It creates work for her. That means you lose to me too often. She should make you be her sous chef or something. So I can mess it up? He giggled. And get on her nerves and get banned from the kitchen? Might actually be a good strategy. You have no skin in the game, Anthony. You bet wild because it doesn't mean anything to you. I leaned against the wall of the elevator as it slowly descended, catching a few people on each floor, and watched the volley of these two, mesmerized. Her tongue was sharp and she was quick-witted. Her voice struck a husky tone that rubbed me in just the right way. So did her deep brown skin, almond brown eyes, and Coke bottle shape enough to grab onto, and then some. Her short-cut, dark at the roots and platinum blonde toward the blunt ends that hung over her eyes was striking against her skin, and a noticeable contrast to thick, plum-colored lips. Not that I was paying attention. I had a text message inbox full of angry diatribes as a lesson to never dip my pen in company ink ever again. But I at least wanted to properly meet this woman. I eyed Anthony over her head, but he was oblivious, deep into shit-talking. He really wasn't going to introduce us? I stuck my hand out, loudly clearing my throat and interrupting their banter. Hey, I'm Booker Lasalle, I said, directing the rise in my voice to her, but cutting my eyes at Anthony. I'm new to precision. Anthony's training me. She paused, her wide eyes rolling up to mine in surprise, like she hadn't noticed that I'd been standing beside her the entire time. And maybe she hadn't because Anthony's personality was large and just this side of overbearing. Hey, she said, giving me firm pumps and then a squeeze before she let go. I'm Sienna. I'm an analyst here. I didn't think I'd seen you around here, but I didn't want to embarrass myself by asking if you were new. Sienna hides in her office. She barks loud, but she doesn't bite, so don't be scared. Shut up, Anthony, she snapped, huffing and rolling her eyes. I choked back a laugh. The elevator thumped, emitted a muted ding, and the doors slid open. The cafeteria, a cafe, and the social center were on the main floor. We followed the crowd gathering around the reception desk. Instead of the normal sign-in sheet and harried front desk staff, there was a steaming crock pot, a few stacks of paper cups, and a tray of cookies. People milled around, sipping what smelled like hot apple cider, and wandered toward the cafeteria, its double doors propped open. A sign hung above the entrance, decorated in festive holiday colors. Happy Kwanzaa from Precision Software. Here we go. Sienna's shoulders squared up, her lips pressed into a tight line. So, what's the deal? My gaze bounced from Anthony to Sienna and back. Y'all seem scared or something. You'll see, said Anthony. He seemed to be enjoying the anticipation a little too much. I was learning to be wary of that twinkle in his eye. The crowd thinned, and we neared a table. And paused. I scrubbed a palm down my face, then gripped my chin and stroked the unshaven hairs that had sprouted there. What? I mean, exactly, said Sienna. Just what? Chapter 3. Sienna. Booker's eyes were wide and full of what I surmised was fear and loathing. I stood between him and Anthony, struck speechless by a 4-story, red and green speckled and mottled monstrosity. It was so overwhelming it had a buffet table to itself. The dull roar of conversation around us ground to a halt as more people entered the room and stopped at the table. Holy, muttered one of the engineers. Oh, dear God, yelped Regina, the receptionist. Ooh, look at everybody checking out my Kwanzaa cake. I was up all night working on this thing. Zariah shuffled through the crowd to the front of the room in a red and green print dashiki dress and red patent leather sandals, her ombre bob lace front perfectly laid, her lips shellacked and stunner-red by Fenty Beauty, bent into a wide smile, beaming every ounce of the pride she must have conjured up to cart 4 tiers of brown, red, and green cake into the building. I found this recipe on the Food TV site and decided to experiment, she gushed. The base is Duncan Hines yellow cake. Then there's apricot jam filling and chocolate frosting, and to be holiday appropriate, I decided to dye the seeds and popcorn that decorate the outside. She pointed at various globs and clusters, grinning wider. A Kwanzaa cake should have a crunch to it, she declared. I read that. Somewhere. I think she got lost on the recipe site, Anthony whispered, leaning over my shoulder. I had so much fun I couldn't stop at 1, so I made 4. And I wanted it to be the centerpiece of our celebration, so I made tears and so happy emoji! The room was silent, save the low rumble of people asking each other what she had just said. She means umoja, I said, saving everyone the trouble of trying to figure it out. It means unity for the first day of Kwanzaa. Right! Happy Kwanzaa! Zariah splayed her hands in a ta-da gesture. The crowd in the room responded with a smattering of claps and lackluster cheers. I inched to the left, trying to get past the table so I wouldn't have to refuse a plate of the cake Zariah was already cutting. Sienna! Fuck, too late. Here's a slice for you, thin, because I know you don't like to eat too many sweets. I don't like to eat your sweets, sis. Zariah held out a slab of unappetizing brown goop, but froze mid-handoff, uttering a surprised "oh" as she took in the lettering on my hoodie. She seemed to force herself to smile through clenched teeth. I stared, daring the author of our freedom of expression in the workplace policy to say a word about my choice of clothing. Well, that's... I... Zariah blinked, then unfroze and widened her smile, then shoved the plate toward me. Cake? I didn't see any way to refuse the plate and not make a scene, so I took it, but with little enthusiasm. Thanks, Zoe. Gonna save it for later. I turned, pushing my way out of the crowd to the next table, and prayed it held something store-bought and unopened. After rummaging several tables of dishes supplied by my coworkers, I managed to scrounge up a sleeve of crackers and some cheese cubes, a few chicken wings from a restaurant container, a handful of chips, some grocery store cookies, and a glass of punch straight from the Minute Maid carton. Anthony and Booker were seated across the room at a table dressed in a red and green checked plastic tablecloth, both plates loaded down with food. Now that I wasn't distracted by the shit show that was brunch, my thoughts could be occupied by our newest employee. Anthony hadn't said a thing about a new trainee. Well, he could have, but Anthony had been long-winded since college. I tended to tune in and out. So, Booker was good looking. I mean, let me be honest, that man was fine in a way that I wasn't used to. Tall, but not a giant like most of my exes. A rich, reddish-brown skin tone, not a dark mahogany or a light caramel. Stocky, obviously muscled, but not in a trying to get cast as the Black Panther way. Booker was a strikingly handsome random guy that I might pass on the street, but I wouldn't actually expect to see him on the street, so I'd trip over myself on the double take. More than his outward Sterling Brown-esque appearance, it was the little things that niggled at that sensitive spot in the small of my back. The gentle strength in his hand when I shook his, the baritone of his voice, and light accent when he spoke that told me he wasn't from around here. I'd never made much of a habit of dating my coworkers, but allowances could be made for exceptional cases. When you've dated the same kind of guy for 10 years, not from around here, made for an exceptional case. I slid a paper plate with my paltry selections into a spot next to Anthony and dropped into a chair. You have a death wish, I commented, directed at Anthony's plate. You too, I said, angling my chin in Booker's direction. What I have, answered Anthony around a mouthful of food, is a system. See? I found out who was bringing what, and from that I deduce who can actually cook and who has a clean kitchen. There's no way you can know. You can if you don't hide in your office all the time. I have the largest accounts, half of which happen to be yours. I don't have time for potluck investigations. Anthony laughed, biting off a chicken wing. If you get to know people, you know whose food you can trust. I trust Faith's food, my mama's food, and my food. What about you, Booker? You don't seem scared. Well, he drawled, drawing out the word while stirring a bowl of red beans and rice. I figure it like this. I've eaten boudin, frog legs, alligator, crackling, tasso. Do I want to know what tasso is? It's a delicacy, made from hog shoulder. Usually we eat it with, nope, I don't want to know, I said, closing my eyes and holding up a hand to halt that description before he could say another word. Anyway, I figure if I can survive eating all of that on the regular, I can withstand some questionable food at a company potluck. Plus, he added, his eyes flicking up to mine while holding a spoonful of beans and rice, I'm hungry. Sometimes you just got to be brave. Sometimes you just got to have a will to live. Booker laughed. Then the bite of beans and rice disappeared into his mouth. He chewed vigorously, emitting a moan or a grunt every few seconds. Whoever made these knew what they was doing. I haven't had beans and rice like this since I lived with my Meemaw. Your what? Meemaw, Booker corrected. Me. Mother dear. Medea. What do you call your grandma, man? Grandma, answered Anthony, chicken wing in one hand and a half-eaten roll in the other. How long since you saw her? She's been gone a few years. She raised me since I was a boy. Mama had me young, left me with her. He paused, shaking his head, going back to his bowl. Anyway, I need to know who made this so I can beg them for a big old pot on a regular basis. You could always ask my wife. Booker's eyes lit up in the same way mine lit up about free food. Oh, is she from Louisiana? Nope, but Faith has never made a bad pot of food in her life, I interrupted, fawning as usual over my friend's culinary skills. She could do red beans and rice with her eyes closed. I don't know about that tasso thing you mentioned. Now, that tasso thing is tradition. It takes years to learn how to cook it. So give her time, I smiled, picking up a few Ritz crackers and a cube of cheese and nibbling on them. Anthony, you should invite him to... Anthony nudged me sharply with his elbow, then cleared his throat and bowed his head, concentrating on clearing his plate. I took the hint and munched on a cracker. That all you eatin' for lunch? Booker asked. If he had noticed our exchange, he didn't let on. He eyed my plate, which didn't look or smell as good as his. Hardly enough to tide you over for the day. I bring my lunch every day. I'll eat when I get back to my office. I only came down here because Anthony harassed me. Sienna doesn't like socializing. Anthony tilted his head toward me and rolled his eyes. This used to be the type of place where you just keep your head down. Come in, do your work, do your thing, go home. Zariah is all about the new way of doing business, open concept, a family-oriented, team-centered atmosphere. These lunches are her idea, and it's important to her that employees show up. If you're in the building and you don't come down, you will come down, I finished. Wow, he drawled. It's like that, huh? Zoe sounds intense. It's not so bad, said Anthony. Zoe's smart, got a good business head about her. Her father taught her well, and with your help, we're going to top XX systems next year. But she's also the boss, so you have to play the game. And the game is stay employed. Anthony and I answered at the same time, then bumped fists. Chapter 4. Booker. One more manual to go over tonight, and then I need to bounce. It's my night to pick up my daughters from after-school care. Anthony handed me a tall paper cup and settled into the chair across from me. Precision clearly valued Anthony if the size and opulence of his office, not to mention his desk, was any indication. A leather chair that he had been perched in during my training looked quite comfortable, not at all like the stiff-backed, cheaply upholstered, thinly padded guest chair that had been bruising my tailbone. Plus, I'm trying to get dinner out of the way before my Lakers play. You watching tonight? I shrugged. I'm not a Lakers fan, man. I don't mind watching Braun, though. I took the cup and sipped, humming and nodding at the tasty brew. That's pretty good as corporate coffee goes. Yeah, a lot of non-Lakers fans will be watching tonight. LA was a good move. A tip for you. Never drink the coffee in the kitchen, man. It's strictly for the developers. They like it so thick a spoon could stand up in it. He dry heaved, then swallowed a gulp from his own cup. This is from the cafe downstairs. They use a special blend, chicory or something like that. I brought the cup to my lips and sipped more of the piping hot coffee. I licked my lips, savoring the perfect flavor. So, that woman we met earlier, the analyst, your friend? Anthony was already shaking his head. I'm gonna stop you right there. Stop me from what? Asking about Sienna. I can't help you. How you know I'm about to ask about her? You have that look. You licked your lips. You did that thing with your eyes. What thing with my eyes? You leaned forward. Did that thing we do when we're trying to be casual like, but we're about to ask a friend about a woman. I'm not sure you're ready for her. My eyebrows rose, mostly out of curiosity, but I was also a little offended. You what? Not sure I'm ready for her? Anthony shook his head and sipped more coffee, his tongue swathing his bottom lip. How do you... Because I know Sienna. I've known her a long time. We went to school together, so when I say fam, I mean it. She's my wife's best friend. She's like a sister to me. Feel me? I'm not about to throw her into the mix with someone I don't know. Hey, I had to pause, take in a breath, force a chuckle because, seriously? I'm not talking about marrying her. I'm just asking about her. Why? Pardon? You heard me. Anthony stared me down, unblinking. He was mad serious about Sienna. I heard that loud and clear. Why are you asking about her? I shrugged, tossing my hands up. He had me. I don't even know, man. She just seemed nice. She did seem like an interesting person, but maybe I didn't need to be interested. As a reminder, my mobile phone buzzed inside the hip holster on my belt. Another call from my ex rolling in. He picked up a thick manual and dropped it onto the desk between us. Back to work. You're on your own in January, and thinking about Sienna isn't going to help you with that. Doesn't she work on my territory? He wagged his head, frowning. Nope. I get to keep Sienna. She'll be handling my accounts, and you'll have your own analyst. Now, some of the clients I'm working on now will be yours. She'll transition them, so you'll get to know her soon enough, I guess. But not until you're trained, so... He tapped the manual, his brows hiked high on his forehead. I sighed, frowned, then reached for the manual. Yeah, back to it. Tara, you gotta stop blowing up my phone, then ghosting when I call you. Call me back. I took the phone off Do Not Disturb and turned the ringer up loud before sliding it back into my pocket. Time to stop ignoring the former Mrs. Lasalle. My first mistake was taking a job at her father's company. My second mistake was being hypnotized by green eyes and soft brown curls. My last mistake, marrying her. I was a pawn in a game that had been running for a long, long time. Anthony had, as promised, rushed out hours ago to pick up his children. I stayed, camping out in a conference room since I hadn't been assigned an office yet, reviewing accounts, systems, and the way Precision did business. I was going to really like this job. Essentially, this was a brand new experience, and I had every intention of eating it up. Speaking of eating, damn, I was hungry. By the time I pushed my way through the revolving glass doors at Precision, the sky had been dark for hours. It had also been hours since lunch, and my stomach protested loudly. I walked toward my vehicle, clutching my belly and trying to decide whose drive-thru I was about to crash. Behind me, I heard a derisive chuckle. I turned to find Sienna keeping pace, a messenger bag slung across her body. Lunch coming back to haunt you? I tried to warn you. I knew what she meant. Office lunches weren't my thing either, but Anthony was my potluck Sherpa. I trusted that he would steer me away from anything questionable. Hey, Sienna. I greeted her with a nod, slowing down so she could catch up. We walked together toward the corner lot. She probably drove the two-door Benz coupe, the only other car in that lot, a few spots away from my Range Rover. I'm not feeling bad. I'm actually hungry. Uh-huh. Look alive, though. Some of these folks might put some mogwai in their dishes. You know, the kind that'll have your guts all unruly after midnight. I laughed, appreciating the teasing tone in her voice. It was super sexy. I hear you. So far, so good, though. Do they work you this late all the time? Nah. It's just the season. Year-end is busy for my department. The sooner I finish my reports, the sooner I'm done for the day. I'd rather stay and get it done. That's what I'm talking about, I nodded, grinning down at her. Work ethic. I like it. It ain't no thing. I make a bonus off of these numbers, so don't get it twisted. I'm highly and personally invested. Anthony tells me you're going to be turning over some accounts to me, so we'll be working together a little bit. A little bit? Yeah. Looking forward to that. Sienna paused, which made me pause, then turned around to face me. She still wore that hoodie she'd had on at lunch. She shoved her fist in the pockets and then bunched the front of the hoodie together, twisting the fabric from the inside. I was just thinking, I know a couple of places in the area where we could grab a bite, even a few that serve Creole dishes, just as a welcome to the company. Wouldn't want you to go to sleep with visions of that ugly Kwanzaa cake in your head. My mind popped back to my conversation with Anthony, which gave me pause. You're not ready for her, he had said. What exactly did that mean? Hey, no pressure, said Sienna, a softness in her tone. I know you're new to town, and there's a lot of places to eat around here. You got that right, I agreed. I have a feeling I'm going to need to join a gym, and I'm grateful for food recommendations from a picky eater. I breathed a sigh of relief when she smirked and rolled her eyes. So, what are we talking? Not Papado, right? You're not taking me to a chain or some fake bougie Cajun spot, are you? Did you just... Boy, no, she cackled, tossing her head back. Come on now. I'd never take a person from Louisiana to Papado. Not that it don't hit in a pinch, but we have a few authentic spots around. Bring! I jumped, startled by the loud ring, then dug into my pocket for the phone. It was Tara calling me back at the most inopportune time, which was her way. I picked up the call, already irritated. Tara, hey, hold on, don't hang up. I glanced at Sienna with what I hoped was an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, I've got to take this. Rain check? Uh, sure, no problem. She nodded, but her smile and the soft tone had disappeared. She whirled around and walked away, moving quickly. See you tomorrow? I got no response, but she did wave. I braced myself, then brought the phone to my ear as I approached my vehicle. Hey, Tara, thanks for calling me back. So why... Booker, who are you talking to? Who are you seeing tomorrow? Alright, first off, I unlocked the truck with the key fob and tossed my bag into the back seat, then climbed into the driver's seat. You need to chill on these questions. We haven't been legally married in a year, so I don't answer to you. Why do you keep calling me? I missed you. She was pouting. Tara had a soft, baby voice, coupled with the downturn of bow lips that she thought was seductive. Hell, maybe it was. It worked on me every time. I've been thinking, and maybe the divorce was a mistake, Booker. We could just start over. We can try again for real this time. It wasn't a divorce, Tara. It was an annulment, like it never happened. And how can we start over? You told me to forget you existed, forget we were married, to get out of your life. Remember that? Remember screaming that across the table at the lawyer's office? Because I was upset. I didn't want to end our marriage. You should have thought of that before you signed those papers. I did exactly what you told me to do. And since when do you listen to me? Hey, look, Tara, today has been 40 hours long, I swear. My stomach is about to turn in on itself. I'm so hungry. I need to get home so I can rest and be back at work early tomorrow. You be easy, all right? And stop calling me. We have no reason to talk. Before she could argue, I ended the call and put the phone back on Do Not Disturb. I turned the key in the ignition and pulled out of the parking lot just in time to see Sienna zip by. Damn, I could have been having dinner with her tonight. Chapter 5. Sienna. And so, who is Tara? Faith was only halfway listening while she whisked gravy in a saucepan. She hadn't even changed out of the white coat she wore at the chef's table, her catering company. How she could cook all day, then come home and cook for her family and still keep her coat a bright and spotless white was a feat of strength I would never be able to achieve. I wore a hoodie to lunch because my chest caught food like nets caught shrimp. I need you to keep up, I ranted from my favorite spot, a perch at the corner of Faith and Anthony's kitchen island, sipping on a glass of Miraval Provence rosé while watching her make art with food. Her smothered chicken and rice already smelled delicious, and she wasn't even finished cooking. Okay, so you tried to ask him out, but he was talking to someone named Tara? Does she work at Precision? No, he got a phone call. He called her Tara when he picked up the phone. Then he dismissed me, because clearly he'd rather talk to some bitch than go out with me. Faith burst into laughter. Why she gotta be a bitch, Sienna? Because he would rather talk to her than go out with me. Honey, I think that's enough wine for you. Anthony said you didn't hardly eat anything at lunch, and I think it's going to your head. I gulped the last swallow before she could take the glass away. I ate. I just didn't eat what Anthony ate. Did he tell you about the cake? She snorted, still whisking and adjusting the heat. He sent me a picture. Throw the whole cake away. Throw the whole brunch away. I mean, there is never a work-appropriate occasion for a 4-tier cake. Faith shook her head, then poured the prepared gravy over the baked chicken fillets and slid the pan into the oven. I'm gonna let those cook together. Check my rice and my broccoli. She always mumbled to herself when she cooked, so I paid no attention while she lifted lids on pots and pans and cooking devices. Did he also tell you that you owe me a pan of sweet rolls? That was his bribe to even get me to go downstairs. Of course not. That's one of those things he pretends he forgot to tell me until we're in bed and I'm half asleep. Faith turned then, grabbing a wine glass for herself and topping us both off before sliding my glass back over to me. With one hand, she unbuttoned her coat and used the other to deliver her glass to her lips. She hung her jacket on the back of the chair next to me and climbed up, breathing a short, nearly inaudible sigh. On cue, Anthony wandered into the kitchen. "Hey, fam," said Anthony, giving me his usual greeting, accompanied by a fist bump. He grabbed a glass and poured up the last of the wine into one. "Hey, babe," Faith muttered through the kiss he dropped onto her lips. "Open a new bottle so it can breathe for a few minutes before dinner." I watched Anthony follow her instructions, pulling a bottle from the wine fridge in the corner of the kitchen. As he bent over, I shook my head and clicked my tongue. Faith, you need to tell your husband that married men don't wear gray sweats. They're single girl thirst traps. First of all, said Faith, her index finger in the air, keep your eyes in your head and off of my husband. Second, I like those sweats on him. Married women like to look. Thirst trap indeed. She sipped her wine loudly, then smacked her lips and winked at me. When you get yourself a steady gentleman, you'll understand. I understand now. I've seen gray sweats before. I don't need to be looking at my best friend's husband's ass in them. In this house, shouted Anthony, while trying not to laugh, I wear the sweats that my wife bought me so that I may cause her to thirst for me. And you got a lot to say for someone that showed up at my house to eat after you only had cheese and crackers for lunch. I ate, I protested. I just didn't eat that mess y'all ate. By the way, I saw Booker on my way out of the building moaning like he was miserable. He said he was just hungry, but... Oh boy, said Anthony, settling onto the stool next to me while Faith hopped off to check the oven. Here we go with this dude. Wait, who is Booker? Booker is the guy I was telling you about that was talking to Tara? Oh, okay. The new snack at Precision with the shoulders and the chest and the swarthy accent. I kind of want to meet this Booker. I am not listening to this portion of the conversation, said Anthony. Turns out he's Anthony's trainee. A trainee that he appears to have been hiding from the women in his life. I ain't hiding nobody. I didn't know there would be so much interest in a new dude at work. And what do you mean, here we go? You know exactly what I mean by here we go. No, I don't. I twisted in the chair, the better to see him. Elaborate on here we go. Oh, Sienna. Faith started, closing the oven door, then turning to face us both. What? I asked, my gaze now bouncing from one to the other. You're just kind of a man-eater, said Anthony, more quietly than he would normally make a declaration about me. I'm a what? You heard me, said Anthony. Not even kind of a man-eater, you're a literal whole man-eater. You just gobble a dude up, spit him out. You're a player. You go through men like, I don't know, like a person that goes through a lot of things. Wait, what? Faith, friend, since college you're co-signing this man-eater bullshit? Well, honey, she cringed, frowning. You are a player. I mean, I love your dating stories, but you're getting up there in age. You say that shit like it's time to put me out to pasture. I date. Yeah, I date a lot. I have a good time. How am I supposed to find a steady gentleman, as you put it, if I don't date? That makes me a player? No, said Anthony. That makes you a woman that dates. A lot. What makes you a player is ignoring a man who is worth your time to spend 3 nights a week with a dumbass who's hoping to end up at your place afterwards. I don't know why you think I'm ignoring men worth my time. When I meet a man who's interested in more than hanging out and having sex, I'll explore that. Meanwhile, I'm cute and I'm a good time. I crinkled my nose and stared at them both. You mean I should go without sex because men are shallow? Sienna, honey. Don't Sienna, honey me. I thought we were friends. We are. It's just, sex is so meaningful when you're with someone you genuinely care about, that you're building something with. Faith crossed the kitchen to stand next to Anthony, who dropped a kiss on her cheek. You two make me sick, grumbled into my glass. Anthony's smug grin irritated me to my core. This could be you, but you're a player. She buys you 1 pair of gray sweatpants, and now you're a relationship expert. So I'm not seriously pursuing the one or whatever. What does that have to do with Booker? You work with him, said Anthony. You can't just blow through a dude that you work with. We won't be working together after we move you to your new account profile. You'll still see him if things go south. I don't burn my bridges. A guy I dated last year just got married. I went to his wedding and everything. Got them a real nice gift like the adult I am. I'm happy as fuck for him. Anthony chuckled. Oh, you sounded. I am. I don't have an emotional attachment to the men I date. And that's the problem, said Faith, jumping into point with the paired cooking tongs. The men that you would form an emotional attachment with are the ones you run from. You don't know how to handle those men. They're not into cute and a good time, and you're scared you'll waste real emotion and time and effort on someone who won't return them. That's always been your problem. You don't know me or my life, I mumbled. I swallowed more wine and sulked, tracing the pattern of marbling on the island countertop. But damn if they didn't just read me like the Sunday edition of the New York Times. I'd known Faith and Anthony since my first day on campus at Albany State. I met Faith in the registration line, and it turned out that we lived on the same floor of the same dorm. We remained close even after graduation, their wedding, and Faith's training in Paris. When they returned to Atlanta and Anthony signed on at a fledgling software company, he convinced them that he needed an analyst to manage his accounts and sent my resume in. The Thomases had seen me through thick and thicker, through years of hot girl summers, through long and short bouts of dating. I was good for a fun and funny man story, but Faith was right, and so was Anthony. They'd seen me through more than a few relationships that would have had me living the blissfully mundane married life if I wasn't so chicken shit about feeling emotions and letting walls down. My biggest fear was falling for someone as hard as they had fallen for each other, but having to do the walk of shame in divorce court years later. I wanted what they had, what my parents had, and if I couldn't get that, guaranteed, I just couldn't risk my heart on a maybe. Booker asked about you after lunch. I rolled my eyes up to Anthony, knowing my expression would compel him to finish his thought. To his benefit, he did so without me having to ask. He lifted and lowered his bulky shoulders, then added, I told him I couldn't help him get to know you. He's not ready for Sienna Charles. Anthony, I sputtered, half out of anger, half out of embarrassment that he had actually said that to Booker about me. So great. He probably thinks I'm crazy, cockblocker. Maybe I did you a favor. He doesn't read as the type to hang out hoping he'll end up at your place. I don't know if I want to play matchmaker here. It has all the markings of a nightmare, grumbled Faith, finally pulling the pan of chicken out of the oven. Girls, she called to her daughters, wash your hands. I climbed down from the bar chair and joined Anthony and Faith in our usual pre-dinner tasks. I set the table with plates and silverware, while Anthony took care of milk for the girls and fresh pours for the rest of us. Faith set the pan of chicken and a bowl of rice and steamed vegetables at the center of the table. Why didn't you shush me when I said you should invite him to your New Year's Eve dinner? He's new to town and he wasn't wearing a ring. He's probably not doing anything. Anthony smirked. I don't know that dude, and like I said, I don't know if I want to play the connection between you two. I already know he'll gravitate to you because that's what men do. I don't want to be responsible for whatever happens if you two spend time together. Saida and Will are coming, right? I brought up the third member of our friend group from college who had met her husband at Christmas 2 years ago at the Thomas house. They just got married and they're stupid happy. I don't know if I can take credit for them, Anthony grimaced, rubbing a palm over his closely cut hair. I didn't even invite Will, and Saida wasn't supposed to come to dinner that year. Oh, please. You brag about bringing them together to anyone who will listen. Okay, yes, they're a success story, but they wanted the same thing and they were wide open to a relationship. Neither one of them were playing. You act like I set out to destroy men. I'm literally just out here dating. I'm just saying. Anthony passed the dish of smothered chicken to me. I served myself a generous portion, then added a spoonful of rice and some vegetables. Once everyone had been served, heads had bowed for grace and risen again, and the girls were chatting amongst themselves. Anthony prodded. You're just saying? I'm not conceding that you're right. I think man-eater is a bit much, but I have noticed that my personal life is mundane, repetitive, Groundhog's Day. Maybe I could try to get to know someone new who's not the same as everyone I've gotten to know, I finished, watching the girls watching me out of the corner of my eye. Maybe we should invite him, honey, said Faith, finally coming over to my side. Like Sienna said, it would be a nice gesture. I know how you work, and you've probably been driving him hard. Fine, Anthony tossed up his hands in defeat. But I don't want to know if this goes sideways, and I don't want you in my office or at my house talking about him either way. I do not want updates. I want updates, said Faith, grinning with her wine glass aloft for toast. That was chapters 1 through 5 of the Kwanzaa Brunch. I didn't intend to read that much, but I kind of couldn't stop. So I will finish up chapters 6 through 10 probably in a few days. It depends on if I feel like reading. Y'all know how it be. Until then, be good, and we'll talk soon.